I stopped filling my father's prescription copay gap after his pharmacist told me his new wife had been splitting the pills to sell the rest. My dad has a degenerative spine condition. He's had it going on 6 years, and the medication that actually works, the one that lets him sleep through the night and get out of bed in the morning without an hour of just trying to stand upright. His insurance covers the bulk of it, but there's a copay gap, a kind of assistance program that half works depending on the month, and after everything cleared, he was still landing around $240s out of pocket. He's retired, fixed income. So about 4 years ago, I set up a standing transfer, $250 a month, just to cover it with a little cushion. He said he'd pay me back someday. I told him to forget it. He married Renee 2 years ago. I'll be honest, I didn't go to the wedding. She came into his life about 18 months after my mom died, and the pace of it felt wrong to me. Not just the timing either. There were other things I'd heard about her that I couldn't fully verify, and none of it was ultimately my call to make. He seemed happy, or said he was, and I'm not in the business of inserting myself into someone else's grief. So I kept my distance, kept my mouth shut, and kept sending the $250. Then I got a call from a woman named Sandra. Sandra is the pharmacist at the Walgreens my dad has used for years. She knows our family. She filled my mother's prescriptions. She knows me by name. She called on a Thursday afternoon and said she had something delicate she needed to discuss. Asked if I had a few minutes. I stepped outside my office and said go ahead. She told me that over the past several months, he was coming in at the earliest legally allowable window every single time. Not illegal, just unusual for someone who'd previously been pretty loose about it. She'd also seen Renee come in to pick up the prescription alone twice, both times paying cash and leaving quickly. And she'd heard secondhand that someone was selling that particular medication in smaller quantities in the neighborhood. She was careful about how she put it. I can't prove anything, she said. I just thought you should know what I've been seeing. I thanked her and sat in my car for a while after that. The medication is controlled. It took my dad 2 years and 3 different specialists to land on a prescription that actually worked. He has a legitimate documented need. But if what Sandra was describing was accurate, someone in his house had figured out that you can split a month's supply, leave enough behind that he's still functional, refill at the earliest legal window every time, and pay cash when possible to break up the paper trail. I sat on it for 2 days. Then I called him on a Saturday morning when I knew Renee had her spin class. I walked him through what Sandra had told me, kept my voice even, said I wasn't accusing him of anything. I just needed to know if he was aware of this. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said, Sandra has no business calling you about my prescriptions. That's not what I asked, Dad. He said Renee had sold a few pills once early on when they were tight on money. He said it was a one-time thing and it was done. His voice had that quality I recognize, the one it gets when he's already settled on his version of events, and he's just managing how I receive it. So you knew. It was one time. Sandra's been watching this for months. Sandra's overstepping. I let that sit for a second. Then I said, I've been sending you $250 a month for 4 years. That money was to make sure you could keep your medication. If that medication has been getting split up and sold, I've been funding that, and I'm not going to keep doing it. You're going to cut me off based on gossip? I'm stopping a transfer I can't trust anymore. That's what I'm doing. Renee is my wife. I need you to respect that. I do respect it. But you knew what was happening and you kept cashing those transfers every month without saying a word. That's what I can't get past. He hung up. I sat there with my phone in my hand for a while after that. I'd called him willing to hear something that made sense, willing to let him push back on Sandra's account in some way that held up. Instead, I got a defense of Renee and a lecture about respect. Renee called me that same night. I let it go to voicemail. She said I was tearing their marriage apart over a pharmacist's rumors. She said my dad was sitting in his recliner unable to sleep because I'd made him feel like a criminal in his own home. I canceled the transfer the next morning. My dad hasn't called since.